Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire. Nashtaprayashu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavate Ruttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtaki. Om Agnanatimirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurungalatavena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityanamine. नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे सोप्येतया चरमया मनसो निवृत्त्या तस्मिन् महिम्नि अवसितः सुखदुःखबाह्ये हेतुत्वमप्यसति कर्तरि दुःखयोर्यत् स्वात्मन् विधत्त उपलब्ध paratmakaष्टः. Thus situated in the highest transcendental stage, the mind ceases from all material reaction and becomes situated in its own glory, transcendental to all material conceptions of happiness and distress. At that time, the yogi realizes the truth of his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He discovers that pleasure and pain, as well as their interactions, which he attributed to his own self, are actually due to false ego, which is a product of ignorance. So, the previous verse. So, by following this course, which is dhyana for a yogi, he develops pure love for Krishna, and the mind withdraws from material activity and becomes absorbed in Krishna. So, this is the whole sequence of uh, verses here. Mind is completely absorbed, so mind is completely free from material contamination, detached from material objectives. Um, at that time, mind is actually dovetailed with that of the Supreme Lord, meaning it is just in the Supreme Lord, thinking about the Supreme Lord, and is experienced as one with Him because it is freed from the interactive flow of material qualities. So the material thoughts, interactive flow of material qualities, the material thoughts cease because the devotee is completely absorbed in the Supreme Lord. So is freed from all material contamination, detached from material objectives, thus situated in the highest transcendental stage. So this is the highest transcendental stage when one is completely absorbed in the Lord and cut off from all material thoughts. The mind ceases from all material reaction. You know what this means? Ceases from all material reaction. The thoughts that are coming in our mind are due to previous karma phala, that you karma which you've done in the past. That results in so many thoughts that are coming through the mind. Now mind ceases from all material reaction. So that means that it is not under the influence of um, material thoughts, free from material thoughts, completely absorbed in Krishna, and becomes situated in its own glory, transcendental. So the mind now is reached a spiritual stage in its own glory, transcendental. So which means that it is raised above the material thinking, feeling, willing. A purified mind. This is the purified mind. At that time, the yogi realizes the truth of his relationship with the Supreme Person of Godhead. Because the mind is now completely absorbed in Krishna, then the yogi is not distracted by material thoughts, and he realizes, he is able to realize that he is the Atma and his the truth of his relationship with the Supreme Lord. He discovers that pleasure and pain, as well as their interactions, which he attributed to his own self, are actually due to false ego. So this is a stage of realization. This is a stage of realization. Till then, we only know by way of knowledge that I am not the body, I am spirit soul. But now it's a realized state. So he's actually realized that whatever pains, pleasures, etc., that he was attributing to himself was just due to false ego, that he is not the body, spirit, soul. So he realizes that stage. Uh, which means that he is raised above passion and ignorance. Forgetfulness of one's relationship with the Supreme Person of Godhead is a product of ignorance. By yoga practice, one can eradicate this ignorance of thinking oneself independent of the Supreme Lord. And I've spoken about this independence multiple times. We should stop thinking of ourselves as being independent of the Supreme Lord, and that trigger point is initiation. When we stop thinking independent and completely become dependent on the instructions of spiritual master. One's actual relationship is eternally that of love. The actual relationship is eternally that of love. The living entity is meant to render transcendental loving service to the Lord. Forgetfulness of that sweet relationship, not just relationship, that relationship is so sweet because it's on the platform of love. That forgetfulness is called ignorance, and in ignorance, one is impelled by the three modes of nature to think himself the enjoyer. So, when we think ourselves as the enjoyer, it is just because of ignorance. When the devotee's mind is purified and he understands that his mind has to be dovetailed with the desires of the Supreme Lord, he has attained the perfectional transcendental stage which is beyond the perception of material distress and happiness. So, like I said, this is the transcendental stage. Mind is now purified and it is in the transcendental platform. Spiritualized mind, purified mind. So then the devotee's mind is not, it ceases from material thoughts, material attachments, mm, transcendental to material conceptions of happiness, distress, and just fixed in the Supreme Lord. Now, we should not think about this as some activity like we are sitting and we suddenly think of ourselves as part and parcel of Krishna, that we are the Supreme Lord. No, this is a state of consciousness wherein all the time one simply thinks about Krishna and Krishna's service and is not concerned about the material thoughts that come. Material thoughts will come because we are long conditioned, but we should not be too concerned. We should not give too much attention to these material thoughts and simply absorb ourselves in spiritual thoughts. What does that mean? So even if somebody is working, they're not concerned, they're not worried, they're not tensed. They're just doing their work as service to Krishna, and just their consciousness is always about serving Krishna. Right? So we should try to build this consciousness. When I was working, I used to always try. Like I said, when I'm interacting with people, I try to remind myself that I'm trying to be Krishna conscious. That means that my dealings with people should be, of high standard. Mm. When I'm dealing with decisions, when I'm dealing with the results, everything is an opportunity to remain Krishna conscious. We should not get lost in the so-called material interactions that we have. We should try to remember in every stay, every moment, that it is just for the pleasure of Krishna that I'm doing this. Again, I've been like reading Prabhupada Lilamrita for the last few days. Um, and many devotees, Brahmananda, Satsvarup, Prabhu at that time, Raya Ramananda, all of them were working. Prabhupada said, Satsvarup Maharaj at that time, Prabhu, he left his job and came and told Prabhupada, I resigned. Prabhupada said, no, go back and work. Get the money and give it to the temple. Right? So we should understand that actually we are also running a temple in the house. And so we are working to just take care of the temple. And additional money, Prabhupada says in Bhagavad Gita purports, like over and above your expenses, you can keep 25% for future, and then the remaining excess amount can be used in the service of Krishna, to promote preaching, etc., etc. So this is a state of mind which has to be there all the time. It's not just a one time or something that we do for some part of the day. And this is the beauty of Krishna consciousness. While other processes, for example, if somebody is doing Astanga Yoga, he can't do Astanga Yoga and also do his work, right? Because he'll be sitting, doing breathing, he'll be doing something else, etc. But for devotees, we can all the time be Krishna conscious as much as possible and slowly keep increasing that consciousness so that we can always remember Krishna. Prabhupada is written multiple places. One should, um, what is the word? Mold his life in such a way that he can always think about Krishna. So that's all. Mold his life means whatever situations, whatever things we are dealing with, everything we should just remember in connection with Krishna. And that is purified mind. At that time, whatever even material thoughts that come are not material because they're just being used to, for example, if I'm going to buy some stuff for Krishna and I'm using my material mind, I'm thinking, okay, is this good? Is that good? Etc. But that's not material. It's spiritual because we are using that for Krishna, right? So we see is to remain on the material platform. It's very simple. If we can, it's a skill. That's why the bhakti is buddhi yoga is skill. Like we have to learn by practice, by being attentive, by being conscious, by being serious, sincere. We can develop this consciousness that in the midst of all material work, we can remain most Krishna conscious. As long as one acts on his own account, see, this is the whole point. The whole point is that we should not act on our own account, which means that we should not act for our gratification. As long as one acts on his own account, he is subject to all the material perceptions of so-called happiness and distress. Again, Prabhupada is demonstrating these, in his. He made so much of effort to spread Krishna consciousness initially, but nothing was happening. Prabhupada was not unhappy at all. He was saying that this is still service to my Guru Maharaj. If some result has to manifest, then by his mercy it will manifest. But he was putting all the effort that was required, not worried about the result. And of course, there is no material perception, there is no material conception. His success, failure, and all are material conceptions. Actually, there is no happiness, just as there is no happiness in any of the activities of a madman. So, in the material activities, the mental concoctions of happiness and distress are false. Actually, everything is distress. Of course, Shunyavadis, Buddhists, they say everything is zero. No, but realistically, everything is distress because everything is keeping us away from Krishna. So, everything is distress. When the mind is dovetailed to act according to the desire of the Lord, like Arjuna was fighting for Krishna, so his mind was dovetailed according to the desire. That doesn't mean that every moment before he's taking one arrow, he's thinking, he's chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. No, he's acting according to the desire of the Lord. Now, in the course of that acting, whatever actions are done are considered pure, right? That is purely Krishna conscious because it is being done for the desire of the Lord. When one can dovetail to act according to the desire of the Lord, one has attained transcendental stage, which is what I was saying. If you run that house as a temple, then that is the desire of the Lord. When the mind is dovetailed to act according to that desire, one has attained transcendental stage. So whatever material situation we might be in, which is actually transcendental. The desire to lord it over material nature is the cause of ignorance. And when that desire is completely extinguished, and the desires are dovetailed with those of the Supreme Lord, one has reached the perfectional stage. So simple, so amazing. Upalabdha paratma kashtaha. Upalabdha means realization. Realization necessarily indicates individuality. In the perfectional, liberated stage, there is actual realization. Nivritya means that the living entity keeps his individuality. Oneness means that he realizes happiness in the happiness of the Supreme Lord. That is oneness. In the Supreme Lord, there is nothing but happiness. Anandamayo bhyasat. Lord is by nature full of transcendental happiness. In the liberated stage, oneness with the Supreme Lord means that one has no realization other than happiness. But the individual still exists. Otherwise, this word upalabdha, indicating individual realization of transcendental happiness, would not have been used. And so, anyway, so we are individual, and the experience is that of happiness. Hmm. Because Krishna is Anandamaya Bhyasat. So all we have to do is just dovetail our desires with the desire of the Guru and Krishna. That's all we have to do. Nothing else. The dovetailing business is the most important thing, because after that, everything that we do becomes transcendental. Dovetail means that our desire should be whatever is the desire of the Lord is our desire. That is dovetailing. But we dovetail the other way around. What is it? Dovetail actually means just connect. Like for example, somebody likes to play guitar, they'll say I played for Krishna. That's not dovetailing. That's one way of dovetailing. Low class dovetailing. High class dovetailing is Krishna likes to hear Mridanga Kartal, uh, and so I will just play that. That is a higher level dovetailing. Lower level dovetailing is okay. That is for people who are not ready to accept the higher level dovetailing of actually just accepting the desire of the Lord as their desire. But their propensities they want to use in serving the Lord, and it's okay. It's okay. It is like saying, I will prepare, cook whatever I want and feed Krishna. This is this lower level dovetailing. It's better than eating without offering to Krishna, but it's not the highest standard. It's not about preparing what Krishna wants and then honoring prasadam as his mercy. That is the highest level of dovetailing. So we should not get confused with this dovetail and say, okay, whatever I do, I will do it for Krishna. That is Krishna consciousness. That is actually karma yoga. Very low platform. Bhakti means only desire of Krishna. That's all. No, nothing else. Hmm. So all these other things that we do in Krishna consciousness is okay to bring us to the highest stage, which is to just understand what will give pleasure to Guru and Krishna, and simply do that. Simply give up our so-called independence and simply do it. Guru is saying distribute books, simply distribute books. If your Guru is saying get up, do Mangalarti, simply get up and do Mangalarti in the morning. No personal preference, no personal opinion, no personal like, dislike. This is transcendental. Simply, simply, so simple. But unfortunately, we want to complicate everything. Krishna consciousness is very, very simple. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, for one who is not surrendered, bhakti is very complex. But one who is surrendered, it's very simple. Simply follow the instructions. It's as simple, just one line. Deham chatam na charama sthitam va siddho vipashyati yatodhyagamat parupam daivadupetam atha daivavashad apetam vaso yatha parikritam madira madandaha. Because he has achieved his real identity, this perfectly realized soul has no conception of how the material body is moving or acting. Just as an intoxicated person cannot understand whether or not he has clothing on his body. Just it's so easy to understand with this analogy. Hmm? Just no external connection at all, no external uh, yeah awareness. There's no conception of his material body. It's just material body is moving or acting just mechanical as a matter of routine practice. This is the perfectional stage. We have to reach there. We are so absorbed in Krishna that all our material activities just happen like a routine, like a machine. without actual external awareness. This stage of life is explained by Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. A person whose mind is completely dovetailed with the desire of the Supreme Lord and who engages 100% in the service of the Lord forgets his material bodily demand. You would have seen this also, you would have experienced this also. Sometimes we are doing some service, something, then breakfast time, past breakfast time, past lunch time, whatever, we are just simply doing because we have to finish something. When we that is the reason I keep saying take up things which are beyond your comfort zone. When we take up things beyond our comfort zone, we'll have to stretch. And when we stretch beyond our bodily demands, that is pure transcendental platform. Mm. And we need that kind of absorption. We need the mind to be absorbed like that. If mind is not absorbed like that, naturally our attention moves towards bodily demands. Oh, I have to eat. Oh, I have to sleep. I have to do this. I have to do that. So it's very, very important to be completely to drown ourselves in some work which is beyond our comfort zone. That's when these things we can actually experience. Deopi daiva vashaga kalu karma yavat swarambhakam pratisamikshata eva sasuhu tamsa prapanchamadiruda samadhi yoga papnam punarna bhajate pratibuddha vastuhu. The body of such a liberated yogi, along with the senses, is taken charge of by the Supreme Person of Godhead and its functions until its destined activities are finished. Now, this verse we can simply use this to understand the current position of Jayapataka Maharaj. Directly, I mean, as soon as I read this statement, that is the thought that comes to my mind. Hmm. The body, along with senses, is taken charge of by the Supreme Person of Godhead. And it functions, meaning Krishna is making it function until its destined activities are finished. So, completely, the so called material body is completely taken charge of by the Supreme Lord. See, the liberated devotee, being awake to his constitutional position and thus situated in samadhi, the highest perfectional stage of yoga, does not accept the byproducts of the material body as his own. Thus, he considers his bodily activities to be like activities of the body in a dream. So, this is the inner state of that liberated devotee. Now, we should not bring down this liberated devotee to material level. This is very, very important. We should help neophyte devotees who are new to Krishna consciousness, understand this state of this liberated pure devotee. That he is actually in samadhi. That he is in samadhi. He is just thinking about how to spread the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That's all. He's in his constitutional position. He's not even a moment. He's thinking of anything apart from this. This is the highest perfectional stage of yoga. Does not accept the byproducts of the material body as his own. He's just saying, okay, it's a body. Krishna is running it, and whatever he wants, he's doing with it. Ups and downs. This parameter went up, that parameter went down. Krishna is doing it. Thus, he considers his bodily activities to be like the activities of a body in a dream. So he just has no connection with it at all. The following questions may be posed. As long as the liberated soul is in contact with the body, why don't the bodily activities affect him? Doesn't he actually become contaminated by the action and reaction of material activities? In answer to such questions, this verse explains that the material body of a liberated soul is taken charge of by the Supreme Person of Godhead. It is not acting due to living force of the living entity. Please understand this. It is not acting due to the living force of the living entity. It is simply acting as a reaction to past activities. Even after being switched off, an electric fan moves for some time. The movement is not due to the electric current, but is a continuation of the last movement. Similarly, though a liberated soul appears to be acting just as an ordinary man, his actions are to be accepted as a continuation of past activities. In a dream, one may see himself expanded through many bodies, but when awake, he can understand that those bodies were all false. Similarly, although a liberated soul has the byproducts of the body, he does not identify himself with those bodily expansions. He knows that they're all products of the material dream. The gross body is made of gross elements of matter, and the subtle body is made of mind, intelligence, ego, and contaminated consciousness. If one can accept the subtle body of a dream as false and not identify oneself with that body, then certainly an awake person need not identify with the gross body. As one who is awake has no connection with the activities of the body in a dream, an awakened, liberated soul has no connection with the activities of the present body. In other words, because he is acquainted with his constitutional position, he never accepts the bodily concept of life. So, anyway, this is a very, very important verse. I think this verse should be sent to all devotees in connection with ongoing, current concerns with both the mm, manifested health condition. I'm saying manifested because Krishna is in control. So whatever he's wanting, he's manifesting. And the I've spoken about this to other devotees also. I said like the only thing that we have to remember in this situation are two things. One is what is the desire of, I'm specifically talking about His Holiness Jayapatak Maharaj. What is the desire of Maharaj? What is the duty of disciples and well-wishers? These are the only two things we should be thinking. Actually, there's no point about thinking about anything else because his body, if required, Krishna can fix it like this. But he's not fixing it for a reason. And the only two reasons underlying that is this. What is the desire of uh, Maharaj, which is obviously in line with Srila Prabhupada's and which is in line with Krishna's? What is the responsibility or duty of disciples and well-wishers? What is it that we need to focus on at this point of time? So I don't know. I mean, anyway, I don't want to put this as part of this recording, but I will discuss it at the end of the class. But this verse is exactly his position. In reality, we can understand how a devotee who selflessly has sacrificed his life for the mission of Guru, what is the state he reaches? And we also saw in the life of His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj. That same commitment, that same dovetailing, that same I don't exist, I am nobody, I am not separate from the desire of my Guru. My desires are not separate. It's the same consciousness, right? And so, in spite of, which is the reason sometimes I feel that there should be some control over what content is shared with in public WhatsApp groups, etc., etc. How devotees speak about these exalted. I mean, what words can we use? We have to understand their position. We have to respect their position. We have to align with that position, act, you know, uh, in accordance to that position, right? Because we are on the material platform, we should not think about them also on being on the same platform. Otherwise, what is the point of Shastra? And then why should Bhagavatam speak about this kind of a verse? Because it is teaching us, which we don't understand. We don't understand this stage of a liberated devotee. What is it that the devotee is experiencing internally? Is this? If anybody has any doubts, you know, this is making it so clear that this is what their internal state is. And this is where we have to reach. And how will we reach this? By simply following in their footsteps. That same dedication, that same submission, that, you know, we have to just surrender ourselves to the desires of Guru and Krishna. That's all. That's all is the sum and substance of their lives, of all these great devotees. We might be thinking, oh, no, no, at this stage they will, they're not, uh, they're not demonstrating any Ashtasatvika Vikar, no, of course they're demonstrating, but it's not for ordinary people like us to, be experience it. Of course, they'll be experiencing higher states of ecstasy. My Guru Maharaj, I was in some communication with him, and he told me, saying that the best way to achieve love of Krishna is to submit ourselves to the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So when somebody is in that state, actually all the whatever stages of perfection are experienced automatically. So we should remember that there is these great devotees, they have no awareness of their body. you know, can you even just like even imagine what this is? Absolute lack of awareness of the body. And we are seeing this. We are seeing this in each and every action that they are doing. Like I said, the only two things we have to think about is what is the desire that needs to be fulfilled, for which everybody needs to work, and what is our duty. That's all that we need to do. We don't have to worry about their body. Actually, I mean, Krishna is in control. What are we telling Krishna? Krishna, you do this. Uh, doesn't Krishna know what he needs to do? But this is the message. This is what we have to learn. This is we have to learn from their lives to surrender ourselves to the desire of Guru and Krishna. That's what we need to learn. And that's what we should be speaking about to people. We should imbibe and we should speak about this to other people, other devotees who don't maybe understand Shastra so well, or who are not, so mm, philosophical. Anyway, I'm happy that we came across this verse today. Okay, I'll stop here. Um, so obviously we can have discussion on this very important verse. And I'm just stopping the recording. Bhagavatam ki jai, Jagat Guru Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Samveta Gaur Bhakta. Hare Krishna.